right, well, today we are starting on the first gen RX7 no prep drag car build. This build has been such a long time in the making. You know, so many things it took for us to get to the point of finally being ready to start on this car. You know, it's something we wanted to do for a while, and then deciding what chassis to start with, finding the chassis, and then we've had this chassis sitting here kind of waiting in the wings for a while now while we collected parts and set up and redid pretty much the whole shop. And we finally got everything we need to start on this car. It's unreal. I'm so excited to get started on this build. We've been patiently waiting to get everything else ready, and it's time. It's time. So if you're unfamiliar with this chassis, basically it's not a very common no prep chassis. We're kind of going into uncharted territory. There is Hayden from Meticulous who runs one of these in no prep and is doing really well. So proven concept, but still not a huge roadmap. But basically, it's a first gen RX7, and it is a 3/4 chassis. So what that means is we've got a stock firewall. From there back, it's all chromoly tubes, custom 4-link. It is still steel quarters, steel roof car, factory body. We do have fiberglass doors, Lexan windows. From the firewall, we have stock firewall, and then forward to the strut towers, we've got all stock sheet metal. So it's all factory there, but then tubes from there on out. So this being a small car in general, which fortunately still has a very large engine bay, which is why we went with this route with this chassis, but it being a small car, and then you tube chassis it with Lexan and all that, and chromoly, you end up with a very, very light car. And this thing is absurdly light. As it sits, it's 1,050 pounds. It's ridiculously light. And we should be able to build it out and it'd be really light. And the lighter we can make it, the better off we're gonna be. You know, your power goes further, less wear and tear, all good things. So that's the goal for this thing, to build it as light as possible and as good but simple as possible. So anyway, point is, got the car, we got the shop, we got the space, we got the tools, nothing left to it but to get to work. We need to get the engine dropped in this thing so we can start building everything else around that, the engine and the transmission. But we gotta dig some parts out of the container that are pretty buried in there, because since it's been waiting in the wings, so have the parts, and then we can get started. So let's get to it. All right, guys, before we get too deep into today's video, I wanted to talk to you about today's video sponsor, Fabletics. So I am not the type of person that's worrying about Fashion Week or what the latest trends are with clothing. I'm a very simple guy when it comes to clothes, and I wear the same clothes for everything, whether it's working out here in the shop or going out to eat, same clothes. So that means I'm very, very particular about those clothes. I like what I like, and that's a very hard line. And all those clothes have to do a lot of things. They got to play a lot of roles, because they've got to be durable enough for me to work on cars out here, which is pretty demanding on clothes, but also comfortable enough for me to wear when I'm chilling on my couch at night or going on a road trip. It's a lot of things, a lot of boxes to check. And so far, everything I've had from Fabletics has managed to check all of those boxes and then some. Features that I didn't even think, didn't even want to put in there as a checkbox. I didn't think I could get them, like the sweat wicking capability, amazing when I'm on the boat. Water resistance, it's Florida, rains randomly, don't even know what's gonna happen, you get caught in the rain. So far, I've been really, really impressed with everything I've got from Fabletics. I think it's great value as it is. But then, when you sign up for a VIP membership, you get 80% off your entire first purchase site-wide, which is already wild. But then on top of that, from month to month, you're getting up to 50% off all day, every day on all items. And with the membership, you get 1 free credit every month for a 2-piece outfit or any item up to $100. And you still have the flexibility to skip as much and as often as you'd like. So that is a big thing for me. I think it's important to have that flexibility there with those kind of things. So if you're interested in checking it out, go to fabletics.com/TaylorRay to get 80% off your first purchase site-wide when you sign up for a VIP membership. So that being said, speaking of tearing clothes up, working on stuff, we got a lot of work to do on this thing. I think we're gonna make some steady progress. So we should probably get back to it though. The car ain't gonna build itself. Take your time?
Nope.
Alright.
It's still working.
right, we have our parts. Now, you might be wondering what in the world this crusty 5.3 aluminum block has to do with this nice new 5.3 aluminum block. That was for this car, and it's a little bit of a rabbit hole, I must admit, but bear with me here. It'll make sense. So, when we decided to build this car, we debated a lot what engine platform, but also what power adder to go with. And, you know, we thought about ProCharger, we thought about JZ, compound turbo, you know, all around the board. What I thought would be the best engine and power adder combo for this car was a nitrous combo, because it's a small car, it's light, it's simple, and you can make, the lightest we could make it would be with a nitrous combo, because it's the lightest of the power adders. But the downside is, you know, we don't have a ton of experience spraying a lot of nitrous, and if you don't know what you're doing, you make some mistakes, you can get burned, literally and figuratively. So we decided to go with the more known quantity, which was turbo LS. Well, this is an LT, so we changed it up a little bit, switching to an LT. So we get to play with the LT platform, see what it's capable of, but this is a fully built LME LT. So 5.3 half-filled block aluminum, rods, pistons, crank, ported heads, all the headwork, valve train, cam, billet intake, billet valve covers, full dry sump setup. It's a really, really nice engine, and the idea was to run this with twin turbos in this car. Now, part of the reason I wanted to go twin turbos over nitrous was because I wanted more fab work. It's a mostly done shell. We have to modify it to fit what we're trying to fit in it, but you know, fab-wise, it's a little skinny on the fab projects, and I like fab projects. It's my favorite thing to do. So, twin turbo, I get more fab projects. However, this is where the curveball comes in. You know, it took us a little bit to get this engine, and then I was debating potentially putting it in the Monte Carlo, but lately seeing all these all-wheel drive builds come out for the Cletus all-wheel drive shootouts, like, I really want to get involved in that action. And now we're at the point where, with the shop, we have the tools, we have the equipment, we have the space, we have the knowledge, fabrication ability to build an all-wheel drive race car from scratch. Like, I'm talking, take a car that's not all-wheel drive, cut it up, tubes, all-wheel drive, fast, rowdy race car. And I gotta be honest, I'm like a dog with a bone, man. When I get an idea of something I wanna build and I start to put the puzzle pieces together of like, okay, we can make this work, it's hard for me to let it go. So my plan was to just knock this build out so that way we could get onto the all-wheel drive build. But then we realized, wait a second, this engine is perfect for an all-wheel drive build because it's already got the dry sump pan, which we need for ground clearance to be able to run the front diff and everything. It's built for a turbo setup, which is what you would want to run on an all-wheel drive car. It's kind of the perfect engine, which means if we were to use this for the all-wheel drive build and then use the engine we have, build it ourselves for this, for a nitrous build, we could do both. Now, instead of using this engine for this and then having to wait to get another engine together to start building our all-wheel drive build down the road, we could start on one tomorrow. As soon as we find the show, we know what we're looking for, we're on the hunt, you know, obviously not tomorrow because we're gonna be working on this, but you get the idea. We could start on it soon because we now have the space. We got 2 lifts, we got room for parts. We can tackle 2 full builds at once. So it's kind of 2 birds, 1 stone. We don't have to wait to start on the all-wheel drive build, and we have pretty much everything we need to put together our nitrous engine for this, and we can start on it now because we have the space to do both. This obviously is not what we're going to be using for the nitrous engine. This is just a mock-up. So while we build the engine, we can build the parts around the engine at the same time, get this thing done even quicker. Also with the nitrous setup, it just gives us more flexibility on what kind of surface and drag racing we want to do. With the turbo setup, we kind of have to build the turbo system around where we need the weight, which is based around what kind of surface we're going to be on. So we kind of box ourselves in more. The nitrous setup gives us more flexibility, more power management capability, because it's way easier to ramp nitrous in and out, and it gets us to be able to dip our hands in something new, which is kind of the point of all of this. We like pushing the limits of ourselves and our knowledge and learning. So I don't know, man, it just kind of, my heart is set on a nitrous setup in this car because I really think that would be the best use of this chassis. You know, not putting a ton of weight in the front, keeping it as light and simple as possible. And again, we have almost all the parts to do it while having a lot of the parts to start on the all-wheel drive build. It's like a 2-for-1 package deal. So I don't know. To me, it makes sense. Let me know what you think. Regardless, or sending it. We've committed, we've discussed it as a group. A lot of debate on it, but we're going for it. I'm excited, man. Building 2 rowdy drag cars at the same time. That being said, we're not gonna get any drag cars done. All-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive if I don't quit jibber jabbering and we don't get to work. Let's get this engine mounted in here so we can start building everything else. We gotta build some headers, we gotta start, get the intake on, start wiring. We could knock this car out really quick if everything goes according to plan, but again, not if I keep jibber jabbering. Let's get to work. Another benefit to going the LS route is I already had motor and mid plate set up. Can't figure out where it goes. This engine, so it doesn't even look like an aluminum block anymore, dude. This is the engine that was the very first engine in my Miata, which I rod knocked for cement.
Oh, okay.
And that's when I was converted to dry sump for life.
What happened to the inside?
I think I threw them away.
We don't need those.
It should be M10 in these lower bolts, I believe. What you got? What you got? That's money, dude. Building this dang car, Josue.
Oh, looks alright.
Hold on, I'm just gonna try to, let me see it. I'm just gonna try to coax it in, because sometimes it's just a rough spot at the start.
Oh, yeah.
Told you. I know my bolt.
I know my L.
I know my L. Motor plate. We'll definitely want to get another one, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, it'll get started.
In there. Oh, we can actually use on this one the lift plate.
Convenient with the bolts.
So goal number 1 was just to see how the engine could and would fit in here up against this mid plate at different height points. But the engine dowels, there's nowhere for them to go in this mid plate, so they were kind of fighting us, putting an angle to it, which isn't really going to help us determine a great spot to mount it. So we went ahead and knocked the dowels out, so that way we could get the engine flush against the mid plate and start looking at different heights and see what we're really working with. Building a race car, it's all about compromises, you know, with height and fit and function. You put it too low, then you got clearance problems here. You put it too high, you got clearance problems there. But we know we'd want to lean, if anything, towards it being a little high, because we'd want a high crank center line for bad surfaces. And it's looking like about center is kind of high, which is perfect. All right, so this is a mid plate we had, which has already been kind of hacked up. This was actually for the Vet originally, the other chassis, not even this one. We basically got to notch the same corner off to get this to match up. What we're trying to do here is this plate is for the rotary, but ideally we can transfer the LS bolt pattern to it. So we can get the LS to bolt to it. So we've got the motor mid-mounted where we need it, and then we can mock up the power glide there, make sure our heights are correct. And if we get everything where we want it, then we can just use this as a template to remake one with only the holes we need and none of these holes we don't. That's our goal, get the engine mounted. So yeah, let's chop it up. Chop it up. So we should probably take this stuff out so we can measure from the inside and get try to get this center, just center at that center. So yeah, let's peel it apart. Forgot thing's got them quick release doors. Oh yeah, I don't even have the strap thingies on. Go in actually, in right there.
Oh, your car's made out of signs?
Yeah.
And she made it.
Yeah, that is a satisfying part. When you're building a real race car, just take all the panels off and away you go. So as you can see, this car has a clutch pedal. It was definitely set up for a stick shift, which we're not doing that. But we need to see if we can make this transmission mount height and everything work. Just want to get this perfecto before we go drilling into this thing. This is a big step in the process. So Josue started working on basically getting us a center line in the hole, so that way we could line the engine up with what was the center line this mid plate was designed around, even though it's designed around a different engine, and then kind of see how that would work out. That's realistically our best starting point for engine position, and it really puts the engine about where we want it. So we traced the outline of our LS mid plate to this mid plate so we could trace the holes, basically copy paste, drill the holes in the mid plate that bolts to the chassis, and have one that bolts to the engine and in the chassis.
Just for Mockup.
I know, it's like a good mod of like weld up the holes, you know, plasma cut out the center. Oof, these are all close to holes. Wait a second. Well, these are threaded.
I know, I see what you're saying. It's like,
Yeah, like,
they're all lower. It's like, shoot.
might bolt up.
You know what we could do? It's already off.
Yeah,
Try to put it out.
yeah. Let's see real quick. Are these, these are small, are these smaller? Well, if they line up, then we'll just drill out these holes.
It looks so.
Does it?
I think so.
It must, you know what it must be? I guarantee. All right, so there is a set of holes that line up, but they're threaded. And then this was what would have bolted into the engine. So I guarantee you rotary, I would assume. That looks rotary-ish, right? Circle. T56. They probably had a T56 in it. That's why these are threaded. So we're just gonna blast those holes larger and we should be able to bolt it in. Well, we got them marked on the other side too. But yeah,
Oh, true.
might as well, might as well, might as well.
No.
Sheesh. Moment of truth. This hasn't been used in a while.
That's dead nuts. My eyeball went bad.
I mean, that's pretty close.
That's convenient though.
That worked out well.
There's just way too many holes and configurations to like
Yeah.
figure that out at first.
Yeah, I was wondering I'm like, I don't know what transmission they would have had in this thing, but I knew it had to be a manual because there was a clutch, but I'm like, maybe they were rebuilding it. Maybe they were rebuilding it not to have a clutch. Yeah. But the dowels will be the big thing. Forgot about the dowels, but I didn't drill those.
Yeah, that one's in the spot. Yeah, that's in its spot.
Alright, I say we'll pop it off, drill out the dowels. I should have a rear cover.
I can check the container. You want to pop it off and I'll drill it.
So now that we got the motor plate bolting on, before we go ahead and toss it in the car, we want to get everything else to line up and work too, including the dowels. That's a big aspect of putting the engine in and out. But I do not have metric drill bits. Oof, sorry. This might be a little small, but we can always bring it open. So, oh, it's way small though. I'm gonna try it with the smaller, and then we'll see. So since before this motor plate was for a rotary, and then with a T56 bolting up to that, the T56 bolt pattern is what we have, but the dowels were set up just for the transmission side. So basically I've got to drill through those, but get them to just the right size to where the dowels will go in and out, but be tight. You know, the dowels kind of become a little pointless if they're not at least snug in there, you know. So it's a fine line. Now the other thing we wanted to do before we put this back in is to see if the rear cover was going to fit or not, because we may have to chop up more of this plate or build a whole new plate. So we wanted to see if that would work, and it wasn't going to work with the factory bolts, but with some slim Allens, it seems like it'll fit. Who said it was hand cleaning time, Jose?
Did you see these hands?
Who said it was hand cleaning time?
These hands are doing more damage than good.
All right, well, we now have a fully bolted on doweled motor plate fit to the dang car. I mean, we had to convert the rear cover bolts to Allen. I think we got just enough room. We did with the Allens with the gasket. We don't know exactly where the crank's gonna end up, but I mean, the lip of the seal is flush with this plate, which means our crank should be about at or flush with this plate, which means we might not even need to pocket this. I might not need to run a spacer, which would be optimal. All right.
The steering column and
Hey. Sorry. I'll try to tighten these. Whatever that size. 14?
14. That's my guess.
Shame. Yep, we were both right. Whew. Let's see how rigid this thing is. Oh, we gotta do it to him. We gotta do it to him.
Job well done.
What you know about that? That's so sick, dude. Motor is mounted. That's crazy, dude. Yeah, that's a solid mid plate.
True.
Tell you what, it's like half-inch thick. The other stuff, like you can see the difference.
Is the other one
That's
quarter?
this, yeah. This is quarter.
Definitely not be like half.
That's probably 3/8. Probably 3/8. It's thick. Thing didn't even budge, and it's missing 2 bolts. Got to get some American hardware, and that's really like where we wanted the engine anyway.
That's it. That's where it was. That's what it was built for. It's kind of on there, as far as like where the plate.
Right. Dude, money in the bank. Shorty, what you drank? Hell yeah.
That's progress.
I could literally start building headers, you know, or whatever we want. We need to try to get the transmission in there tomorrow. See how we're gonna do that. I want to see if it'll come out from the bottom, like come up in from the bottom or not. If not, we may have to cut that and make it removable, which I'm not obviously not opposed to. But yeah, anyway, basically see if we can get the transmission to bolt up. Anyway, we got a dang old LS in here. I just wish this freaking motor plate wasn't so act up. I'm ordering an ICT one on Amazon right now.
Right now. Yeah, well, if we do that, definitely, because then we can do that.
Mm-hmm. Have it fully mounted.
Yes.
Well, now too, we can take that off and we can start mocking up the intake and get an idea of how that's all going to fit. Tomorrow's going to be a good day, I'll tell you what. Yeah, that's sick. I can't believe.
Bolt down.
That's crazy, dude.
Dog that one yesterday. Pull it off.
That's just been my biggest hang up was the mid-plate thing. Like, turns out, ding, bolt on. Who would have thunk it? All right, well, the engine didn't fall off overnight, so that's good. Now, empty mock-up block, and that thing's super thick, so it's fine. Next up, really, is just putting the transmission in. Trying to put the transmission in. I guess let's try it. That's the thing. I think we can put it into the side, which, I mean, we might as well try it. Now, this is obviously a mock-up transmission, which luckily Raldo and Josue had lying around, but it's pretty much the exact same thing that we're going to be running, just a couple small differences, like the transmission brake solenoid, but this gives us a pretty good idea of where we're at. All right, well, the transmission, I mean, it fits. The gist of it fits. You know, we've got plenty of room up here around the tin work. You can see some stuff, like this car is definitely set up for a T56, so you know our gas pedal's like pretty much right on top of the valve body. We can shuffle that over. We're gonna have to shuffle some things around to get room in here. I mean, it's a small car, and we're kind of, you know, the car was built around a T56 and a rotary. So it's got this kind of sliding bar transmission mount. So basically you'd have a bar here, and then you could slide the transmission back and it would sit on that. And then when you want to put it in, you just slide it forward and pin it in place. So I'd like to do the same thing, but a T56, you don't have this whole valve body situation here. So your bar could run all the way up here, but ours can't because of the valve body, and it's currently sitting on that mount. Chop this off and flip it, do the same thing, but basically all the excess that way. So then it'd be right underneath the mount when it's installed, and then when you need to access something, you can just slide it back out of the way. Before we can do that, got to get the front of the engine mounted, because we can't take the bell housing bolts out off the engine, because then it's going to just fall out. So we basically need to get the front of the engine mounted, so then it's secured without the bell housing bolts. It's doweled in, front mounted. Then we can put the transmission on and put the bolts in. We'll probably even add a pair of studs so that you can kind of get them mated together easily and then do your bolts, something like that. But for now, we can't really work on mounting the transmission until we mount the front of the engine, which is okay. I mean, the main goal here was to see if it would fit. You know, that's what these tests are for. Oh, the Grinch. Anyway, I mean, it's looking good. It's looking good. Should bolt up. We should be able to use that mid plate. Might even have to get away with minimal modifications to that cross member. Anyway, we'll probably pull this thing back out, get it out of our way, and then start messing with the engine itself. But engine fits, transmission fits. That's a big step in the right direction, you know? I don't care. The new motor plate is supposed to be here today, but I have this luck with Amazon, specifically when it comes to car parts, that I need in a hurry. I feel like I never get them on time. Always the car parts. But anyway, we got a bunch of stuff in the container that we can use to mock up on this engine, plus stuff that is going to go on, well, not this engine, but the engine that goes in this car. So I want to go dig all that stuff out.
Use the mirrors. The car that stands like, you gotta drive like it.
I know, right? So might be able to make those work. Slow it down, boy. Okay. All right, so here is some of the stuff that we already have on hand for this thing. So we've got this dry sump tank. I may still get a new one. It's the right size, the right combination of fittings for what we need for a tank. At least we have that for Mockup, if anything. We got some valve covers. We'll toss those on. And so we're not running no traditional LS intake setup. We're running this Holly split intake, which will A, make it really nice for doing our direct port nitrous, but B, it splits apart. So we can basically take it apart and then get in there and port match our runners to our heads. It's just the kind of stuff we're gonna need to do on this. On a turbo setup, that kind of stuff's like, it helps, but you can just add more boost usually to make up that difference. It's not really worth the extra time, but since we're going for NA and our nitrous power is gonna be a direct result of our NA power, we gotta do, these little things will go a long way. Moral of the story. Fuel rail ports, because we are gonna be still running fuel injection with, admittedly, I've always wanted to run one of these kind of setups. Our fancy carb style throttle body. And I'm pretty sure this is all gonna stick out. Looks cool though. We're doing no prep, so we don't really even need a front end, you know?
No, for sure. Sunday.
Front ends are for the weak. That base, like, I mean, you have to cut it there anyway. Well, if we just run it with no intake, it's no problem. I was even worried about the valve covers because this is like a decently high engine position. For what we're trying to do, we want a high crank center line. If this was a radial car, we were doing prep stuff, we'd want a lower crank center line, which we could get the engine way lower with the dry sump, which we're gonna run anyway. But for now, we're gonna start with it there. But we are gonna have to do some cutting. Nitrous. I have 4 bottles. It's been a while since I looked at this kit. Oh man, I'm just so happy with how this looks in here. So we kind of inventoried our nitrous stuff, like these are annular nozzles, and with the way these are going to need to go in, we basically need some weld-in bungs that'll go in here to get them pointed right down there at the valve perfectly. So I've got those ordered, so we can get those, boom, weld them in, start setting up all of our hard lines and stuff. I gotta say, I'm so excited about this. I've always thought these multi-stage nitrous setups with the hard lines looked so cool, and I've always wanted to do one because it's so intricate and you can make it so nice and neat, you know, and it's a good part of the reason to do this is this is a perfect candidate. So anyway, we have that. Got to order a few more fittings, odds and ends for like the purge, but we did dig out the Miata's old stuff, like the purge solenoid, pressure sensor. We got 4 bottles. We got most everything we need for the nitrous, so that's good. Our motor plate did come in today, finally. So I really want to get this on just to see what it looks like and what we're going to be working with as far as mounting. And then we got something really exciting to turn this thing into a proper roller, hopefully. No more pushing it around on the dollies. I mean, we might still have to because the front. I'm eager. I'm itching to do this stuff, so I should quit jibber jabbering so we can get to work. Oh yeah, that is much, much better. We have a lot of room to work with here. for building our mounts from the tubes now. We're gonna have to do a pretty big notch here for the dry sump pump, and then we are gonna have to notch for an alternator. Our goal is to make this thing look like it shouldn't even be able to run, except for on nitrous. There's gonna be a lot of nitrous stuff, but yeah, I'm so excited, man. The more we put the puzzle pieces together, this is gonna be, I think this is gonna be really a nice mix of like very functional, but very serviceable and simple, and yeah, anyway, jibber jabbering. So, this car has not been a roller since the entire time we've had it. The front tires, that's still an unknown. We need to take one off and figure out what's going on with it. The valve stem, just on both of them, will not take air. Hopefully we can get those inflated though, because Josue found the deal on some used Mickey Thompsons. We have the size tire that we're actually gonna run on the car, not these giant steamrollers, so we can finally get these mounted on those wheels and see what it's actually going to look like in the rear, and have tires that hopefully hold air. So they're going to be pretty stretched. You know, it's a 10.5 tire, and we're going onto a 13-inch wide wheel. So I'm just really excited to see what the fitment and the offset looks like with the actual tires that we intend to run on this thing. And if we can roll it around, man, that's gonna be amazing. So yeah, I guess let's lift this thing up, get the wheels off. Now on our 28 by 10 5s. The amount of times I've heard 28 by 10 5. And we got our first set.
Our own set of 28.
28 by 10 5s, get it right.
Let's go.
28 by 10 5. I did this last time. Just remember there was just enough room.
You'll have to go up first and then try. Oh my god, I'm getting caught on the rotor.
Look at the difference between these two here. This is a 28 by 10 5. This is like a 31.
31, I believe.
31 by 15.
By 14. Golly.
I know.
Now they look way
right. Yeah, this gives you a better look at the suspension back here. We don't have any rear shocks. They got these bars in there right now. So we need to get some rear shocks. We may need to do a beefier sway bar. Wow, dude, wrong way. Oh, watch out, there's some daddy long legs. It's just daddy long legs though. This is a little embarrassing, but
Oh, there's another one.
we got two daddy long legs running around inside our wheels.
We're gonna clean those up.
Yeah. My bad. I had one job. I'm normally the bolt hander. Bolt getting handed to her.
Switching it up.
This is a new role for me. It's gonna take me some time to get efficient.
It's an important job. Fumble the bolts.
Whew.
Got sweating, boy.
So after fighting with the first one, trying to get it off, we decided that we'd probably try the tire machine on the second one if it didn't come off easy. Sometimes once you've done the first one, it's a piece of cake, but this one was still a struggle. So we decided we got the tire machine, we got the features, we might as well use them, make our lives easier. If anything, it's like having a third person there. And fortunately, it really helped. The tire came right off. So we got them cleaned up, and now it's time to see about stretching these 28s on here. Just want to show you guys how we do. It came with them. I can't look like it's a flex, but we're right at 13 and a half wide. Oh, these things are big, man. I can't wait to see them with the appropriate tire on them. Yeah, we're going to try to use a tire machine. You know, it's one of those things, we were just talking about it, where it's like, oh, the drag race dudes never use tire machines. But it's like they probably mostly don't have tire machines because it's not really necessary to have a tire machine if you have beadwalks. Whereas for us, it is absolutely 100% necessary to have a tire machine. So mounting a double bead lock on a tire machine is a little bit counterintuitive because it's basically like you need to put the tire on like you're mounting a tire on the one side, then flip it over and do what you would do to dismount a tire on the other side, because you need both beads effectively on the outside of each lip instead of on the inside. But we figured it out. We came up with a method, and I think it was definitely easier on the tire machine. So then it was time, with them both set on the beads, to do the very tedious process of putting on the bead lock rings. You got a bunch of bolts, 2 rings per wheel, and then you got to kind of work your way around so you can kind of tighten them down evenly, just like you would with anything. You need to do kind of a bit of a star pattern, and a couple of the threads, these having sat a while, were a little crusty, so retap them, and then you've got to basically torque them to 18 foot-pounds or so, which is kind of just that point where they get fully tight and actually torque up. And then that's really it. Again, tedious, time-consuming, but overall pretty dang simple. So with the rears done, we needed to get the fronts done. Before I put the rears on, I wanted to have the fronts sorted out, which created their own challenges because they're too narrow to even work with the tire machine without something stacked behind them to break the bead. But overall, I think we figured it out. All right, well, I don't know what's up with these valve stems, but we did manage to get air in the front tires. Basically, we debeaded it just to see. We took the valve stem out. It wasn't blocked. I basically had to stay on the pedal on the tire machine with the air and push the air chuck on and off to get it to take air. But it's weird because if I just have it out, the valve stem, it's fine. Anyway, both the front tires now have air for the first time since we've owned this car. So that's good. And you can see our stretch boys on the rear here. Whew, sheesh, that's some stretch. So I'm gonna go ahead and air them up, and then we will install all the wheels and see if this thing's finally a roller. Crazy how light they are.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, it's super cool.
Dude, I'm stoked. I'm stoked it's not sunk, like, because they have to stretch. One of my mini rabbit holes with this car, I was like, do I get new axle housings? And if I get housings, do I convert to floaters? Because I gotta get new shafts just to get new link housings. And dude, it's like a small tire car now. That's so exciting. We look like a gangster small tire car with the stretch tires, tuck in.
Looks proper. Let us in.
And it's like, the other thing too is, like, as much as I'd love for it to be flush and fitted, it's like it's just the right offset to be able to get it in comfortably. So realistically, this is like perfect. Dude, it looks so much. Drop it down. We gotta see what this thing looks like on the ground. If we can roll, we gotta roll it out. It might not even come off the lift in the back. Oh, it did.
It's rolling away.
Hey, now it's rolling.
It literally started rolling.
That's how you know it's rolling. Oh my God, dude, we gotta roll it out. Should we make a little tie bar real quick? 50 inches, okay. Perfect. All right, we're gonna make just a little bar that connects the two, because this car doesn't have a rack currently. The rack that the mounts are built for, from what I understand, is kind of a hard rack to find. So we still gotta decide what rack we want to use, if we want to cut those mounts off, build new mounts, blah, 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 blah. So the piece of material I had that I was willing to sacrifice for this was, not the most optimal piece, but ideally this has got to be a short-term thing. Not ideally, it's got to be, but it's just to make our lives easier. Now that the car has tires with air in them and we can push it around, we won't have to put it on the dollies every time if we have the front wheels connected, but with them disconnected, it just makes it virtually impossible. But at least this way, you only have to tug them left or right together in unison. So hopefully it all works. It just clears the tires. Everything's tight, but looks like it's going to do the job and make our lives easier pushing this thing around. Tucking them 28's, boy. All right, check it out. It's got an engine in it, and it is a roller officially. Well, I mean, semi-officially. Our little steering bar, I guess, is kind of a cop-out, but it works. It's way better than them flopping around. Front tires have never had air in them. Back tires have kind of had air in them sometimes, but were completely useless. With this thing being tubbed for such large tires, I mean, we could literally run it dragging frame in the rear if we wanted to. But yeah, no, I think the axle's a little bit to my side, because I feel like there's definitely, yeah, it's definitely a little further to my side. We'll have to adjust that, center the axle. Because this side, the fitment is like money. Just wide enough to kind of fill them out, but you can also get the wheel out.
I see it though. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so it needs to go to your side a little bit. And then it'll be a little less on that. This side, a little more on that side.
Gotta turn the bars.
Turn the bars. Yep. Play with the bars. No, that's a wild feeling, man. For a few days, however many days we've been working on this thing, to go from this thing shoved in the corner to, I know it's a mock-up engine, but an engine in it.
And a game plan.
Mounted, and a game plan. We have a full-on game plan. More parts are ordered. You know, it's like even this, part of the reason going this route was I had most of the stuff to do it, but even still, you know, you just kind of immediately find stuff. We need that. But, oh, it's crazy, man. Crazy. Guess we should push it back inside. Dude, it's so cool. We have a car on 28's this way. We're doing it. Not only is it a car on 28's, it's tucking 28's, dude. Tuck. All right, well, I think that is a good stopping point. I mean, it's still so light. I'd be curious to weigh it as we go, but I mean, it's whew. I think this thing's gonna be a monster, dude. Just seeing it with the intake manifold and the throttle body, I think this thing's gonna be surprisingly fast just because it's gonna be so light. So I'm real happy with our choice. Going with the nitrous setup, I mean, we're just able to hammer it out. Lining the car out will be much easier because we can literally run it on motor until we get this thing going dead straight, hooking up everything, and then we can start adding nitrous into it. First stage, second stage. So I don't know. I'm excited. I think this is going to be sick. I'm also excited for what we get to use that motor for and to start on that soon. But regardless, we're out of time for this one. So we got some shop stuff to do just because like we've been looking for parts, you know, that we need for this thing that we've had on, you know, store, but things aren't organized up there yet. So we need to do all that. And then, well, parts should be in for this thing. We can get back on this thing. And I think we can get this thing done pretty quick. Assuming there's no like major parts delays that we can't detour around, I don't see why not. So anyway, what are any closing thoughts, Josue?
It's taking shape. It's gonna happen. We're doing the thing.
We're doing it, dude. We got a race car in the making right here. 28's engine. I mean, that's a big step in the right direction. So I could jibber jabber on and on, but thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I will see you next time. Should be interesting. Goodbye.